Hey everybody, I'm Karyn Bryant. Welcome to the MMA Heat podcast.
What's up, everyone? Alan Jouban here as well.
So listen, we weren't able to get together on Monday, but we wanted to just do a little quick something just to get hyped about UFC Lincoln. But Alan, it's a bummer because if people follow you on social media, which of course they should do, they know you have a neck injury, and then you got another update on that first and foremost before we get into the other fight stuff, huh?
Yeah, so I'll just update you guys on where I'm at. Injured my neck, had to pull out of my last fight. I've been seeing a number of doctors, a number of surgeons, and all in all, from what everyone's saying, it looks like I'm going to have to go forward and get a surgery. Just not sure which surgery yet I'm going to have to get, but I'm going to have some type of procedure to fix the disc and open up the nerve. The good news about this is I reached out to Chris Weidman. Yeah. Turns out he had the exact same injury a couple years ago when he had to pull out of the rematch against Luke Rockhold, which inevitably Michael Bisping stepped in, won the belt, changed the course of history and his life forever. And that was because of Chris Weidman's neck injury, the same one that I had. So he referred me to a doctor in New York who does a special procedure that only 2 doctors do. And it's a much shorter recovery time than I was originally expected. So it's just up in the air. I'm trying to see if I'm a candidate for that and what options are out there. But nonetheless, I'm going to have to wait till I fix this before I can proceed into fighting again. So waiting to get some more news about which surgery is going to be right for me at the moment.
All right. Well, obviously that's a bummer because we want you to be back in action soon. Even my mom was like, "Tell Alan, I wish him the best," and everything. I mean, that's the thing is, you know, it sucks because.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, and you know, and for your recovery, is like there's no way to speed it up, right? That's the thing is like you just have to take the time and just deal with it. So you just got to deal with it. But
that's it.
Yep. All right. Well, we are in action this weekend though at UFC Lincoln, and so really wanted to get your thoughts and kind of just talk about Justin Gaethje versus James Vick. The long and short of it, no pun intended, of course. James Vick, like the tallest lightweight there is, 6'3" or something. How he makes 155 is insane to me. But, you know, he's been calling people out. He keeps seeing people turn him down, and he can't get a top 10 fight because everybody thinks he's too dangerous, and they don't want to risk losing to a lower-ranked fighter. I believe currently he's at number 10. Gaethje's at number 7. You know, Gaethje's only 1-3 in the UFC since he came over. But, you know, this dude, he's always in a firefight. So, if I'm being honest, my gut tells me this is a Gaethje fight to win. I think, you know, his output is faster. James Vick is a little bit slower on the draw. I think he uses his jab pretty well. I think he, you know, uses his distance and his length and all that pretty well. But sometimes I think he just doesn't have a fast enough pace. And I feel like Justin can kind of score a lot more, land a lot more on James before James would land on Justin.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to agree with you, Karyn. My gut tells me that this is Justin's fight to win right here.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's 1-2, 1-3 in the UFC, but all of his fights have been against high-level competition, tough fights. Dustin, Poirier, Eddie Alvarez, Michael Johnson. Yeah. These are not easy fights, and in all of those fights, he was almost winning. You know, they were back and forth fights, the type of fights that Gaethje always seems to put on. But I agree. I think James Vick, he uses his size well and his height well to the reach advantage, but it also makes him a little bit slower at times. I see Justin being able to squeeze a victory out of this one, but I'm not giving up on James Vick.
Well, me neither. Yeah,
100%. But I think if James Vick would get this victory, I would definitely be a believer, much more so. And I think it would put him on the radar of a lot more people as well, getting a win over a big name. This would be the biggest name, the biggest victory of his career. Doesn't matter if Justin's on a 2-fight skid. Yeah. Getting a win over Justin and putting him away, being able to finish him, which not a lot of people have been able to do, would definitely elevate James's career.
Well, yeah, and you're right. Yeah, I misspoke. He's not 1-3. He's 1-2. He beat Michael Johnson, but then he lost to Eddie and Dustin Poirier, and that's the whole thing. You know, not for nothing, but Michael Johnson almost had Justin out too. Let's remember that was an incredible fight, and Michael Johnson almost had him out too. And the funny thing is, you know, when you talk to Justin, anything you hear about him, you know, this guy is a very decorated wrestler, but he doesn't wrestle in his fights, and he's like, look, I put the I put crowd pleasing ahead of winning a fight necessarily. He's like, I won't necessarily do the smart thing and shoot and wrestle. I'd rather go in there and make it an exciting fight. And it's kind of funny because, you keep saying, listen, you have this great skill set that you don't even use. But I was just reading an interview he did with MMA Junkie or something. He's like, yeah, this is not the time to bring wrestling back in. Vick's the kind of guy I can knock out. He's not the one where I have to, quote unquote, fight smarter, which I think I agree with. I don't necessarily think James Vick is the one you need to take down. He should have maybe mixed that into the Poirier fight and stuff like that. But I agree with you that James, I'm not trying to discount his chances at all. I'm just saying, when you look at James's last fight, I was watching the one against Francisco Trinaldo, and it was a tough fight. But Trinaldo, the pace was just a lot slower. If you look at the pace of Poirier and Gaethje and the pace of Trinaldo and Vick, two very, very different. And I just think that if Justin puts that kind of pressure on, lands that left hook, and works as fast as he usually does, I feel like he could add up a lot of damage in a shorter amount of time than James could.
Yeah, and if I'm not wrong, this is James Vick's first main event. So this will be a 5-round fight. Gaethje has been used to putting on these 5-round fights for quite a while. He was champion in other organizations, and been main eventing pretty much since he's been in the UFC.
Right.
So he's used to it. I'm not sure how James Vick will handle it. I'll tell you this. If I was Gaethje, and he uses this already, he utilizes the low kick very well already. But the one time that I have the most success, I find, with my low kick is against taller opponents, because their legs are longer, their stance is spread a lot longer, so that lead leg is a little bit easier to get to because it takes them a lot longer to retract it, get it back out of the way. So Justin Gaethje's already a sniper with that leg kick. I could see him utilizing the leg kick in this fight to slow James Vick down even more so, and opening up and start headhunting after that.
Yeah. I agree with you, but I will say this. Vick's only defeat, I believe, is from Beneil Dariush, who, was able to knock him out. But James is a confident guy. He's been talking the talk, walking the walk. So, it's not really that I have a reason to doubt that he can do what he says he's going to do. It's just that also when you look at the level of competition, I feel like Justin, even though he may have lost those fights, got his licks off against higher caliber fighters than James has. But James is 100% capable of pulling it off.
Right. Well, that's exactly it. I mean, I don't think either of us doubt the confidence or ability of James Vick. He's just been fighting kind of mid-par guys and doing well against them. And Gaethje's been fighting the cream of the crop, and he's been losing, but he's been almost winning. So it's just it's hard to go against almost winning. But that's how all of his fights are. So it's kind of like a needle in a hay, or a coin toss, a coin toss with Justin's style. He's in the pocket, and anything can happen. But it's hard to not lean for the guy who's fighting the higher caliber opponents and able to fight on that higher level. But as we both said already, we can't count James Vick out. And in my mind, if James Vick pulls off this victory and does so with a finish, I'm on that James Vick wagon. I know that he can compete with the upper echelon, the top tier opponents in the lightweight division. Yeah,
it's going to be a fun fight for sure. Right before that, though, we are getting Michael Johnson. So, as I said, Michael Johnson was the first fight for Gaethje, and he almost had Justin out in that first round. Michael is very good. Now, he's on a bit of a slide himself, and it's weird. Again, it's the same type of situation, though. He's only been fighting great fighters. Like, you lose to Khabib. Yeah, I get it. You lose to Justin. I get it.
Yeah.
You lose to Poirier. Like, he actually beat Poirier, though, So, Michael.
Knocked Poirier out.
Yeah. Michael is very, very good, and has definitely admitted, that his back is against the wall in this one. He's fighting Andre Fili, who is good, but that Fili fight, and it actually got a little awkward because he came up to the desk with us right after. I actually thought Dennis Bermudez won that fight with Andre. It was very close. I wasn't like, oh my God, it's a robbery and I'm totally freaking out. But I actually did think that Dennis won that fight. But that said, Andre has the ability to mix up great takedowns and all that. But on the feet, Michael, I do think has that striking edge.
Yeah, I'm interested in this fight, Karyn. I agree. When Fili and Bermudez had fought, I didn't know either guy personally. And scoring it from an outside perspective, I gave the slight advantage, slightest advantage to Bermudez. It was neither a robbery, but I agree with you. Yeah. And I remember that moment when he came to the desk, he wasn't very pleased with everyone who
because I'm pretty sure Dom or somebody threw me. Yeah, they threw me right under the bus. They were like, "Well, Karyn didn't think."
No. Yeah, I think it was. I'm pretty sure it's probably Bisping because Bisping's a master of throwing people under the bus. But I agree. Since then, we have both worked with Andre Fili on UFC Now. I've got a chance to meet him and know him. We've been following each other. And so now we're a lot closer. And I feel like if I would have watched the fight of Dennis Bermudez now, having known Fili, I might have scored it differently. So you never know when you know people, don't know them. But when I watched it the first time, I didn't know either of them, and I gave a slightest edge to Bermudez. With that, Fili is a guy that came onto the scene. It was kind of going win-loss type thing. But I feel like he's still evolving. I feel like he's still gotten better with each fight. Even if he had won or lost, he's a guy that's come a long way since his debut. Now he's fighting Michael Johnson, who's dropping down, obviously, from lightweight. Yeah. And Michael Johnson has fought some of the toughest guys out there. But I believe this would be a very competitive fight and one of the most competitive fights that Fili has had yet in his career.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Andre, I was just looking, I didn't have my glasses all the way on, but I think Andre's just 28. So he's not a beginner, but he's still a fighter who is getting a better fight IQ, still maturing as a fighter, and that's pretty much what he said to us, like you said, at UFC Now, and what he had said at the desk, even that he's taking things more seriously. So he's already very good. I expect him to be better, and I do think that he has he's more fluid in his takedowns, I believe, but Michael does have that striking edge, I think. But honestly, I'm not really sure who to pick to win this one. Michael with his back against the wall could just go all out and go for it. If he throws everything he's got at the guy, he could light him up.
Yeah, you mentioned a great point, the takedowns. Because when I think of Fili, I really don't think so much of a takedown on a wrestler guy. He just doesn't have that build or that look. But he's a guy, like you said, or like we saw in the fight against Bermudez, who pretty much out-wrestled Dennis Bermudez. Yeah. Which not a lot of people are able to do. Right. Dennis is not only is he a really good wrestler, but he's very small and compact. And it's hard for a tall, lankier guy as Fili to change levels and get in on that and finish the takedown. But he did it against Bermudez. Michael Johnson's a much taller competitor, much leaner. He's got good scramble ability, but Michael Johnson's not really known as an all-American wrestler, a dominant wrestler, but he does know how to wrestle. Right. I agree. I would think that Michael Johnson, if it's not a technical advantage on the feet, Michael Johnson has a great he's got a good scramble type scrap style, and he's very quick. He's the kind of guy that, like, when two guys throw a punch, he'll throw that third punch that'll land on people, as he did on Dustin Poirier. So as long as Fili can keep his chin tucked, hands up, and beware of those big shots, I think he will have the wrestling advantage. And that might be his best route to winning this fight, is taking Michael Johnson down. Yeah, it could be. Well, right before that fight, we have Cortney Casey and Angela Hill. And it's funny, like you mentioned, now that you know Andre, you might see things differently. Now, I know Angela more than I see Cortney. I mean, more than I know Cortney. I don't really know her at all. But Cortney is a very much more physically imposing fighter at that size. But I think Angela, I don't know, I just think I like her striking better. But Angela's had to work to put on muscle mass. I mean, that's something that she noticed after the Andrade fight, that she could stand to have some more muscle on her, because Andrade, I mean, she bulldozes everybody. Yeah. Such a little powerhouse, man. But Angela, has been working on trying to gain some mass, and I think she's going to need that against Cortney, who is, physically imposing much more so. But I like Angela striking. She throws a lot of good combinations. After she was in the UFC and then, got cut, but when she went to Invicta, she went undefeated there, became the champion. And, I think more things are clicking for her than not. When she's lost, it's been close decisions and stuff. I mean, I know, Rose tapped her out, but I think Angela has really just been coming along. I know working down at Alliance is doing really good things for her there. But that said, Cortney has her back against the wall a little bit. She's lost some split decisions, so I feel like she's also going to be really emboldened to come out and make a point. So I expect it to be a pretty active fight. That's for sure. Yeah, it should be a good striking battle. Is Cortney out of, where does she fight out of? Is it CSA gym in Upland? Is she train there now and then, or am I wrong?
Yeah, so on her paperwork they have her out of the MMA lab, and so that's what this says. But people always move around, and sometimes the paperwork that we get isn't always up to date. But I always thought she was based in Arizona.
Right.
That was my understanding.
Okay. I might be mistaking her with just not training there, but I thought she might have trained at CSA, which is Combat Sports Academy,
right.
Upland, California, who hosts a tremendous amount of great strikers in MMA. And I thought she might have been there, but what I'm getting at is she's going against Angela Hill, who is a tremendous striker. And I agree with you, Karyn. Angela Hill has a fun style. It's a technical style, but it's fun. You said it. She was out of the UFC for a minute. She did very well outside of the UFC. When she came back, I believe it was her first fight back. She had one of my favorite women's fights of all time. I think it was a fight that she lost, but I think it was against Jessica Andrade.
It was the Andrade fight. It was awesome.
And it was awesome. They stood in the pocket. They threw down. They were eating shots. They were giving shots. It was such a tremendous fight. Yep. I remember jumping up and down during that fight and tweeting right away, "Give these girls a bonus, man!
Totally.
They're fighting for the fans, And ever since then, I've pretty much been a big fan of Angela Hill. I think we also fought on the same card when I fought in Orlando. I think Angela might have been on that card as well. And she's just a very smooth striker. You see her hit the pads, and everything has a crack when it hits, and everything retracts right back. She's not sloppy. So not to hype up Angela and not do so with Cortney, but I followed Angela's career a little closer because of some of those fights that made me a fan. But either way, it should be a tremendous fight with both of them. But I think Angela should have a slight technical advantage. Sometimes technique doesn't really matter in fights. This is MMA, obviously. But if it does become a technical fight, I think Angela has a small advantage in that department.
She will have to work, though, because Cortney, it's not easy to get rid of her. You know what I mean? She's a very, very tough girl. So I know you got to get going soon, but couple other things, Jake Ellenberger is fighting Bryan Barberena. Now, you were supposed to fight Barberena at one point, right?
Well, Jake Ellenberger and Barberena were both guys that have kind of been floating around, and I always said yes, absolutely, to both of them.
Right.
Neither of those fights ever happened. I'm real curious to see Jake get back in there. His last fight he lost to Ben Saunders, which I thought was just bad game planning. He went in there and got into the clinch. Clinch with Ben Saunders. Ben Saunders, if there's two things that I studied when going, I said avoid the clinch and avoid his guard game. Jake Ellenberger kind of had a brain fart, put himself in a bad position, got caught with the liver shot, and his fight was done. Immediately he wanted to fight again, so it shows me he's still got that burning desire. So I want to see how he performs in this fight, again, especially against a tough, scrappy guy like Barberena. These two guys, I think, are made to bang. These are both guys that are kind of like a little more, somewhat flat-footed. I would say Barberena is more flat-footed than Jake, maybe. But both guys like to come forward. This should be a fun fight. There's also two more fights, though, Karyn. Mickey Gall is fighting on this card. He's the guy that came to Muscle Farm. I'm a part of Muscle Farm, and we've been doing a lot of training. He's actually, for a guy that doesn't have that many fights, and the UFC did kind of help him out with some of his opponent selection, he's actually a very tough guy. Very tough guy. He's got a really good jab on the feet. He's tremendous on the ground. He's got a really strong – if he gets you in the rear naked choke position or the Darce position, that's his highest percentages. So I look for him to try to finish fights like that when he gets to the ground. But he's been working with Joe Schilling over at Muscle Farm. Now that Mickey Gall came to L.A., Joe Schilling has kind of taken over his striking. So I look to see some improvements there on the feet. But the one thing you have to be careful is it's like a kid with a new toy. Mickey Gall is a young guy. He's never really been like beat up too bad yet. And he's found this new striking toy that he has. So let's make sure that he doesn't fall in love with it in this fight. I expect to see some good striking out of him. But you know what I mean? He has a good jab and he's gotten better, but he's not quite there where he can be too slick with it. So I would say use his new improved striking to beat up his opponent and then look for the takedown where he's stronger.
Yeah, he's definitely stronger on the ground, but I too am curious to see. Obviously he's taking the right steps and taking a mature approach to get better with his fight game by moving out to train with you guys at Muscle Farm. So I think that is really good, and I too am really curious to see how he does. I'm curious to see Eryk Anders on the main card as well. He had that fight with Lyoto, which was a close fight. That was the first time I believe that was the first time he had to go into the deeper rounds and everything. Eryk is a guy who was on the Arizona football team and helped them get a championship by causing, I believe he caused a fumble to, so he's an incredible athlete, obviously. And to see what he does after fighting Lyoto Machida, you know what I mean? That's a full-on education. So I'm really curious to see him come out and see what he does in the next fight. And you and I, before we were on, we were talking about John Tuck finally has a fight, right? So this is a guy who trains out of King's MMA.
Where's he been?
Yeah. So we actually talked to him a long time ago, and because we were down there with Kelvin or something. I was like, okay, yeah, let's John. We got to talk about, he always wears that cool necklace. And we did an interview, and he didn't even have an opponent at the time. So we did put this interview out. It is on, MMAHeat.com. It's on my YouTube channel. It's on our Facebook and all that. But if you're wondering why people are like, why didn't you ask him specifically about Drew Dober? Because we didn't know. At the time, I just wanted to talk to him about, representing Guam and the whole, everything that his whole vibe and how he even came into the UFC and all that. So it's not a super long interview, but it is interesting to get the backstory on the necklace. He literally says he sometimes cuts extra weight so he can wear that, which is because it's heavy. But yeah, good guy. I'm excited to see him back in action too. They're actually, it's funny. These are those cards, those kind of sleeper cards where you're like, oh, I know that guy. And then, there's like Andrew Sanchez, who won the Ultimate Fighter, is on here. Warlley Alves, who is fighting James Krause. That actually is kind of interesting to me. I'm sure you're kind of taking interest in that.
I'm super interested in that fight. Yeah, no, you said it. The Warlley Alves, James Krause. Yeah. I'm really interested in that fight. Me having fought Warlley Alves before, but James Krause going up to welterweight, I'm really interested to see how those two pair up. Like you said, with Tuck, such a cool dude, man. I really like him. He's been gone, it seems like forever. Yeah. He's now hanging out with Ortega more than ever. He's always been boys with Ortega, but let me see if he brings a little bit of that Ortega swagger into the octagon with him as well. But yeah, this is one of the cards. These are like my favorite type of cards. Yeah. These cards that it's just a bunch of good fights, good matchmaking. I want to see the prelims. I want to see the fight pass. I want to see the main card because it's people that I know and people that I know bring it. So this is one I'm definitely going to watch the entire event on.
Very cool. Well, I will be at the desk on FS1. I think some of our stuff is on FS2. It's me and Kenny and Jimmy Smith. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it too. And Alan, enjoy your beautiful truck, Black Betty, as much as you can. And I know you're like, I know I got to get surgery, but I still got to go to the gym. Don't be a maniac. Like, come on, take care of yourself.
I know. It's just like as soon as I got the news that I don't know how long I'm going to be out, I was like, you know what? I've been babying my body for 2 months and I haven't gotten better. I'm going to do as much as I can before I'm sitting in bed. So I went on a hike. I went hit pads. I went to the gym. I know I don't want to injure it anymore, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to be laid up in bed with a neck brace thinking, shit, I wish I went on a jog or something, and now I can't do it. So trying to make the most of my time, but I'll be smart about it.
All right. Well, folks, on social media, I'm at Karyn Bryant on Twitter, and I have a YouTube channel there. Of course, obviously, you can find MMA Heat across all the platforms. On Instagram, I am KB Heat. Alan, where can they find you?
I'm at Alan Jouban across the board, guys. Check it out. Thanks for tuning in, as always. We're going to have some we'll be together in person, I'm sure, for the next one. We'll bring you some good stuff. We were taking a break for a minute, and, they didn't have any fights for quite a while, but we'll be back on track real soon.
All right. See you later, folks. Thanks for checking it out.
Take care, guys.